In a world where debates are often rehearsed, polished, and predictable, there sometimes comes a moment that breaks through the noise, a moment that feels unscripted, raw, and unforgettable. That is exactly what happened when U.S. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, better known as AOC, faced off against Burkina Faso's young and fiery president, Captain Ibrahim Traoré. The stage was set at an international leadership forum streamed live across multiple platforms. The topic was supposed to be education and the future of global leadership. But within minutes it turned into something far more personal and far more powerful. AOC began with her usual sharpness. She spoke about her own journey, about studying economics and international relations, about the need for global leaders to have strong academic foundations. Her words were well-crafted, confident, and in the beginning, the audience nodded along politely. But then, in a shift that seemed almost deliberate, she turned her focus toward Traoré. With a half-smile, she remarked, "It's one thing to lead with passion, but true leadership requires education. Some of us studied policy and law for years before leading. Others, well..." She paused just long enough for the jab to sting. Others had a different kind of training. The audience felt the weight of her words. The implication was clear: Traoré's military background, his unconventional path to power, and his lack of an Ivy League degree made him somehow less qualified to sit at the same table as world leaders who wore academic prestige like armor. Cameras zoomed in on Traoré's face. For a moment, he didn't move. He didn't flinch. His eyes remained steady, his lips pressed together in silence. The seconds ticked away. 12, 25, 36. At 47 seconds, he finally leaned forward, adjusted the microphone, and with one sentence, shifted the entire energy of the room. "A diploma can make you literate," he said slowly, his voice firm and deliberate, "but dignity makes you a leader." The room froze. No one had expected it. The sentence was not loud, not shouted, but it carried the weight of a thunderclap. AOC blinked, caught off guard. Some members of the audience gasped audibly. And then, like the delayed echo of a storm, applause began, first hesitant, then rising, wave after wave until the entire hall shook with the sound. The moderators tried to calm the room, but the moment had already slipped out of their control. Social media clips of that 47-second pause, followed by that single sentence, were already spreading faster than wildfire. AOC attempted to respond, but the spark in her eyes had dimmed. Her words, once sharp, suddenly seemed rehearsed, hollow. Traoré, sensing the shift, didn't waste time. He continued, not with anger, not with arrogance, but with clarity. "Education," he said, "is a treasure. It can build nations. It can heal wounds. But education without dignity is dangerous. It creates arrogance. Without wisdom, it builds careers but not character. And the people who suffer are always the same: the poor, the voiceless, the forgotten." His voice carried an almost lyrical rhythm now, a cadence born not from textbooks but from the battlefield of life. He spoke about growing up in Burkina Faso, where education was not guaranteed, where children walked miles barefoot to attend classes under leaking roofs. He described the sacrifices of mothers who sold their last harvest to buy notebooks, and the fathers who taught lessons under trees when there were no schools. "Do not speak to me as if I do not value education," he said, his eyes briefly meeting AOC's. "I know it's cost more than many who take it for granted." The audience was riveted. No one scrolled their phones. No one whispered. Every word from Traoré felt like a strike against the invisible hierarchies that had long dominated international politics. His tone was not one of resentment, but of truth spoken plainly, without apology. He then broadened his focus. "Africa has been told for decades," he declared, "that we are behind because we lack your schools, your systems, your structures. But what we have always had is dignity. And it is dignity that keeps us standing when resources are stolen, when systems collapse, when promises are broken by those who call themselves educated." His words were not just about himself, they were about every young leader who rose from the soil of struggle rather than the halls of universities. AOC's expression softened, but she said nothing. She shifted in her seat, glanced at the moderator. But the moderator wisely stayed silent. The audience was no longer there for balance or fairness. They were there for truth. And truth was radiating from Traoré like heat. He leaned back slightly, but his words carried even more force. I respect learning. I respect those who study. But leadership is not a certificate. It is not letters behind a name. It is the courage to speak when silence is safer. It is the honesty to face your people with nothing but the truth. And it is the humility to serve, not to be served. By now, applause had broken out multiple times. Each sentence seemed to plant seeds in the hearts of listeners, seeds that would grow long after the lights of the stage faded. And then, when the momentum seemed to reach its peak, Traoré delivered the line that would become the closing twist, the immortal sentence that secured the moment in history. History, he said, his voice lowering, as though confiding in every single soul present, will not remember the titles we held, but the truth we carried. The audience erupted. It was no longer just applause, it was a standing ovation, an outpouring of respect that transcended politics. Some had tears in their eyes, others shouted words of encouragement. Even those who disagreed with him could not deny the raw, undeniable power of his message. The cameras captured every second, broadcasting it to millions. Around the globe, AOC remained seated, still, her hands clasped. She wasn't humiliated. Traoré had not mocked her, had not attacked her personally. Instead, she had been reminded of something larger, something greater than personal pride. For a brief moment, she seemed less like an opponent and more like a listener, confronted with a truth she could not dismiss. When the debate ended, the moderators tried to regain control with polite closing remarks. But it was useless. The story was already out of their hands. On Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube, the clip of Traoré's 47-second pause followed by his one sentence reply had already gone viral. Memes, edits, translations, and think pieces spread within hours. Some hailed him as a revolutionary voice for dignity in leadership. Others criticized AOC for striking first in a way that backfired. But almost no one ignored the story. What began as a debate on education had become a lesson in dignity. What began as a jab meant to diminish had become a platform to uplift. And what began as an ordinary forum had transformed into an unforgettable viral showdown that reminded the world of one simple truth. The strength of a leader is not measured by the books they read, but by the dignity they live. And as millions replayed the clip, especially the final line, it became clear that this was more than just a debate. It was a moment of history, an unscripted, raw, unforgettable moment that the world would keep talking about for years to come.